swallow a mouthful of crushed pearls to stay alive? In 1348, the wealthiest people on earth didn't just try it, they bet their lives on it. While the world outside was turning into a mass grave, the elite were throwing the ultimate lockdown party. They thought their gold was a shield. They aren't just hiding. They are trying to outrun the reaper with excess. They believe that if they laugh loud enough, the sound of the corpse carts won't reach their ears, but the Black Death doesn't check your bank balance. It only checks your pulse. Welcome to the most expensive mistake in history. The logic of the time was a frantic, feverish delusion. If the world is ending, why save anything? The streets of Florence and Venice turned into a surreal theater of the macabre. You had two types of people: those who whipped themselves in the streets, begging for mercy, and the bright young things who decided to turn the apocalypse into an interstellar bender. They occupied abandoned palaces, dragged in crates of the finest Malvasia wine, and engaged in organized debauchery that would make a modern rock star blush. They practiced pleasure as a shield. The idea was simple: stay happy, stay drunk, and the bad air won't find you. It was the first and most desperate vibe check in history. But let's talk about the medical advice for the rich. It was pure, unadulterated insanity. Doctors, terrified and clueless, suggested that the wealthy should eat crushed pearls and liquid gold. Imagine the scene: a nobleman, sweating under his silk robes, choking down a spoonful of pulverized gemstones, believing the shimmer in his stomach would act as a holy barrier. They were literally eating their inheritance while their servants died in the kitchens. They thought gold was a conductor of life. In reality, it was just a very expensive way to damage your internal organs while a microscopic assassin waited at the door. Every 60 seconds, the vibe shifts. One moment, you're watching a countess dance in a gown stitched with silver thread. The next, you see her glance at her own armpit in the mirror and freeze. She sees it. A bubo, a dark, swollen lump the size of an apple. The music doesn't stop, but the air in the room suddenly turns to ice. This is the pattern interrupt of the 14th century. No matter how high the walls, no matter how many locks are turned, the enemy is already inside. And it didn't come through the front door. It didn't care about the gold. It arrived on the back of a hitchhiker. The arrogance of the wealthy was their undoing. They thought their villas were airtight fortresses. They burned expensive incense to purify the air, creating a suffocating cloud of cinnamon and cloves. But while they were distracted by the scent, the rats were moving through the shadows. The black rat, the Rattus rattus, is an expert climber. It didn't need an invitation. It scaled the ivy-covered walls, squeezed through the cracks in the masonry, and nested in the very tapestries the nobles were leaning against. The fleas didn't care about the divine right of kings. They jumped from the rat to the silk, and from the silk to the golden skin of the revelers. The sensory transition is brutal. Move from the smell of roasted meat to the stench of vinegar and rot. As the guests begin to cough, the party turns into a claustrophobic cage. One by one, the dancers collapse. The liquid gold didn't work. The crushed pearls are just grit in their teeth. The irony is staggering. By gathering in these dense, high-luxury bunkers, they created the perfect laboratory for the contagion to spread. They weren't hiding from the great mortality. They were RSVPing to it. Imagine the last hour of the feast. The musicians have fled. The fires have burned down to gray ash. A billionaire of the Middle Ages lies on a pile of velvet cushions, surrounded by more wealth than 1,000 peasants will ever see. He is shivering. He is screaming for a priest, but the priests are all stacked like cordwood in the town square. He realizes in his final, agonizing breaths that his gold was just metal, and his walls were just stone. The gods of money had no jurisdiction here. The aftermath is a grim, cynical joke. When the plague finally receded, the social hierarchy was demolished. The survivors of the lower classes suddenly found themselves in high demand because there was no one left to plow the fields or bake the bread. The wealth of the dead nobles, the gold they tried to eat, the silk they tried to hide in, was looted or burned. The villas of pleasure became monuments to futility. The lesson isn't about hygiene. It's about the hallucination of safety. Even today, we see the elite building bunkers and buying private islands to escape the next big thing. They think they can innovate or spend their way out of biology. But history has a very loud, very wet cough for those who think they're above the laws of nature. The rats are always better at climbing walls than we are at building them. The party ended 600 years ago, but the echo of that desperate, drunken laughter still rings in the ruins of the old world. It's the sound of a civilization realizing that when the pale horse rides, he doesn't check your bank balance. He only checks your pulse